Yeah, I think, sorry, Ilsa, go please.
Oh, I was just going to say another piece in the puzzle that we could see was, around community demand and whether people are expecting that aged care services would be actually treating them as a whole person. Because, and actually the things that people are saying about aged care now, it breaks my heart because it feels like it's getting worse and worse in terms of the narrative. And I know it's a massive overstatement, but just the fear levels are sort of going like this. And again, like you wouldn't feel afraid to engage with aged care services if there was a sense of expectation that I will be seen, I will be known, I will be, dare I say, loved, treated with respect, understood and supported. And that's what provoked our piece of work we did, sort of community-facing work in 2019, the See Me, Know Me campaign, was to try to start to build some literacy amongst the older population who were not yet accessing aged care. I think that there's something maybe there for the leaders in aged care, as well as government, to, if we can work together to increase community expectations about actually what's on offer, then I think we're all winners there. But everyone also knows that no one wants to talk about aged care, like apart from saying it's terrible, but any sort of idea of future planning, all of this, it's a well-known challenge. But I don't think we should give up on it.
No, not at all. Yeah, I love that kind of concept as you're talking about around, coming from leadership. And I guess it's an interesting thing when we're talking about spirituality, because it must be hard and challenging for anyone, the community or a leader, to be talking about spirituality, maybe if they're not focusing on those spiritual practices themselves. I have a quote that I love, that is, you change the world by changing yourself. And, maybe it's requires more reflection from us as a society in general to start to shift that dial, because maybe it's things that we kind of don't talk about. But without getting too lofty about it, and Meg, you and I have spoken about this again quite a bit, but I'd like to kind of keep digging into some of the kind of challenges and then talk a little bit about how we start to implement these things. But, on a provider sense, we've spoken a little bit about care planning, the draining forms and things that are out there. What are some of the things that are kind of holding us back on a tactical or administrative level from these things?
Yeah, my experience, please understand, is fairly limited in terms of it's in that it's, my focus has been at enablement of tech across large scale, community care providers in enabling business processes to support, whatever it is that they were doing at that time. One of those areas happened to be around care planning. And so, my experience with that is that there's no defined tool sets or assessments really for them to use. As we were just talking before we jumped on formally to kick this off, there's whilst there is very well-known validated clinical assessments that are drawn on, hopefully in a tech-based capacity, but often not, usually in a manual-based capacity. But there's no, I guess what's missing is, this is how you create a care plan. This is what it needs to look like. This is what it needs to say. These are the areas and the domains you need to cover, and so on and so on. And indeed, it's often up to the provider to create that really out of thin air, and they don't have time for that. And that's actually very true. And so really, as we said, that it's a lot of the, working in the business, not on the business. And, day to day things just keep carrying on because we have to just keep seeing clients, and new clients are onboarded, and, time just inches away from us. And then every now and again, something will happen where, as we were saying, it goes into the quadrant of urgent and important, and it gets a focus. But largely, I would say in summary that there's no defined tool set for providers to innately turn to and be able to use. And that's got to be a combination, of course, of both the clinical validated assessment tools where required, but also the non-assessment tools. How we should be enabling that first meeting and what's asked. How we proposition that encounter. How do we promote the relationship to enable those responses that we want from the clients to better get to know them and what they're going to need from a service. now I certainly don't want to paint the picture that that never happens, but in large instances that didn't happen. And so one of the large operational barriers is that capacity to have non-standardized assessment pieces and also have that directly aligned to what that service plan then needs to be in a very pragmatic sense, and what that then needs to also align to in an overarching goal progress benchmarking layer. And that also doesn't exist. So there's so much wrapped up into that around resource training, standardized assessments, time. Quite a while ago, the government removed quite a lot of funding to support case management in general. And so a lot of the time that would have been involved in or allowed to get to know clients through that interaction was removed. And so another really key point, just if I can just keep going for just 1 second, is that a care plan is going to be different in structure and requirement based on the acuity and who that client is. And so it's really very important that people understand that there's not one size fits all. And so what a plan of care and how you get to know a client is going to be different for disability-based services. It's going to be different for clients that are on CHSP current funding right now. It's going to be different to a home care package level 4. It's going to be different to those in palliative care. And so as you are on that spectrum, the needs will change, and so will the time commitment and so on and so on. So in summary, it is non-standardized assessments, lack of time, lack of focused funding to support and enable that, and then also lack of awareness around why these things are important to do persistently, so that you can get some great metrics at the other end around progress overall.